Welcome to the History of L.A. one-on-one sessions. I'm your host, Junor Francis. Now, this series celebrates Southern California's rocksteady and vintage reggae scene through insightful conversations with legends and key players from today's revival. This is the 16th one-on-one session, but our first in this exciting new podcast and YouTube channel format. Thanks to all the returning listeners and of course, those who are joining us for the first time. Today's guest is none other than Jesse Wagner.
How's it going, Junior? Thanks for having me.
Vocalist, guitarist, dynamic frontman for the magnificent and dynamic Aggrolites. Jesse, enough respect.
Yeah, enough respect to you as well.
No kidding. Within a relatively short time, you and Aggrolites have become household name here in Southern California. That's amazing. But let's talk about where you were born and raised. I heard Jamaica, but I could be very wrong. But can you set the record straight? No, I heard.
Yes, I'm from Kingston now. I was born and raised in a city called Rialto, California, which is the Inland Empire of Southern California. About 60 miles east of Los Angeles. I lived there till I was about 18 years old and then moved out to Los Angeles for a brief amount of time, Burbank to be exact. And then from there moved to Orange County, and from Orange County now I'm in beautiful Corona, California.
Wow, yes. Wonderful. Mm-hmm. And brothers and sisters in your family?
I have one older sister. She's 4 years older than me, and she was a big influence for me with entertainment, because she was, in the sense that growing up, she was always the showbiz kid and I was just the little brother. So she was doing a lot of community theater and plays, and she had dance lessons and all that. And we were always singing around the house. So my sister I would always be at the rehearsals or anything that she'd be a part of. And being the little brother, it'd be like, okay, throw him up there. He's the cute little 4-year-old. Let's have him be like a townsperson in the play or something like that. And then there would always be talent shows that she would do. So it'd be like, hey, let's throw him up there and have him sing a song. It'll be funny, you know? And so, yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for my sister being so interested in the whole like theater and musical arts and all that, I don't think I would have ever been in front of a crowd. So thanks to her, I've been in front of crowd since I was a kid and everything.
Wonderful, wonderful. How about your parents? Are they alive?
Yeah, both of them are doing well.
Wonderful.
My father was he was a musician. He used to play in a Motown style cover band, and my mother has a older brother, and he was also in a pretty popular soul band back in the late 60s and 70s. So that side of the family, my mom having that soul influence of my dad, that's pretty much what we were listening to around the house. And then also my mom being a teenage girl in the, mid 1960s, she was in love with the British invasion. So, I mean, the Beatles, if it wasn't Motown around the house, we were listening to the Beatles. And if it wasn't those two, then we were listening to Frank Sinatra or Tony Bennett or Bobby Darin and stuff like that my grandparents were always playing, the Mills Brothers and so on. So between those three things, that was the big musical influence,
And that's huge. So there was always music in your home.
Yeah, always music. My grandmother had 5 sisters, 2 brothers, and they'd always get together back in the, during the World War II days and all that. And they were like the Andrews sisters, they'd all harmonize and sing around the house. My great grandfather played mandolin and was a single father, widower from Italy, and raised all the children on their own as a barber. And he used to play the mandolin around the house, and I guess that's where all the harmonies and everything came from, was from my mother's side, my grandmother and all her sisters.
Right, and you got to know all your grandfathers before.
I knew both sides of my grandparents, and I was fortunate enough to know my great grandmother on my father's side and my great grandmother on my father's side till I was in my late teens. But they were all in Cleveland. My family is all from Cleveland, Ohio.
So did you end up here?
I was the first one born out here. My sister was born in Cleveland. Everyone in my family's Cleveland.
Mhm.
all the way to my grandparents. My great grandparents were all immigrants, and they moved out here because my uncle, like I was saying, my mother's older brother, he had a friend that he grew up with that, I mean, if I got the story correct, he had a friend he grew up with that moved out, I think it was around Pasadena. And he constantly talked to my uncle about how beautiful Southern California is. And just pretty much like anyone from the Midwest
Of
probably has a
course.
similar story. Uh, he would come visit. Then my dad came and visited a couple times, and it was like, we got to get out of this snow and cold weather and everything, and move to California. So
So,
yeah, he moved out. I guess he lived with my uncle for a little while trying to find a job, and
mhm,
then just hustled to doing every kind of sales thing that he could possibly do,
mhm.
and ended up just going further and further east in California. Pasadena was too expensive, so then he ended up Glendora, too expensive, and he ended up finding a nice little, I think it was like a motor home or some, or what do you call, mobile home, sorry,
Mhm.
Fontana, and there then I was born
Yeah,
shortly after
you're
that.
wonderful.
So
Yeah, thanks to your parents for bringing you into this world, man. Yes,
yeah,
indeed.
man.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, how did you get baptized into the ska scene here in California?
Well, when I was about
Coming from
12,
your sister taking you to,
yeah,
yeah,
theater and music and everything,
you,
and
you're
stuff
baptized.
around the parents' house. When I was around 12,
12.
7th grade or so, like junior high,
Mhm.
you know, it's like that age where you're out of elementary school and you're trying to be cool now and you're trying to find yourself, you know, just like most teenagers, 12, 13 years old. And my sister had a boyfriend who was he was really into a lot of he was more into like Joy Division and like Manchester music, you know, like the Smiths and things like that. But he was
Mhm.
very, he knew the UK thing, like music from the UK. And I was telling him, because I listened to my parents' records, you know, and all the other kids were listening to, you know, hip hop or grunge, they called it, you know, like Nirvana and Pearl Jam and all that kind of thing. But I really like my parents' old soul music and things like that. I play that around the house, and it was records. I was the only kid that had records. Everybody else had CDs, and I wanted to fit in and be cool. So I asked him, "Hey, man, what's like a cool music? I want something that has horns in it because I
Yeah.
like I like Tower Power and I like this
Mhm.
and that." And I go, "What's a cool nowadays music that has horns?" Because at the time I thought anything that was soul was horns. That's what I
Yeah.
thought of soul music, horn bands. And he goes, "Well, there's this music called ska." And I'm thinking to myself, ska, this sounds like heavy metal, like ska. And it just sounded like heavy metal to me. And he's like, you know, you never saw the picture of the guy in the suit that's going like this. He's talking about Walt Chabsco, you know,
Okay.
the specials guy.
Mhm.
And he's like, no, man, I'll take you record store shopping. So there was a place in Claremont. I don't know, it's
Still
still
there.
around or not. It was called
Still there.
Rhino Records.
Yes, so still there.
And
That's an institution.
he took me to Rhino Records, and he was nice enough to buy me a few CDs. He bought me one CD called the California Ska Quake, which is a big compilation of a lot of California bands.
Mhm.
Uh, he bought me a CD called the Skeletones, which was a local ska band, third wave ska band, and he bought me a CD called Hepcat, which
Mhm.
was the album Scientific. Or no, it wasn't Scientific. It was right the first one, right out of nowhere. And yeah, I mean, I went home and I started listening to this stuff, and you know, being a teenager, like I got into ska. This was a cool thing, like. And as that went on, it was I was all about the third wave ska punk kind of thing. That was, you know, junior high for me was like skanking it up at the ska shows and everything like that. And all of a sudden, that Hepcat record, when I was listening to that so much, it was too slow. I was like, this isn't ska. This is too slow. And my dad would call that polka music because they grew up in Cleveland, and, you know, polka music was like the thing that their parents would listen to. So, but then one day, I don't know, it just clicked. I was listening to it one day, and I don't remember where. I was in the backyard doing something, and I wore headphones 24 hours a day. I was always listening to cassettes or you know, I'd burn cassettes on CDs or CDs on cassettes, and I always had a Walkman, and I'd make little compilations. And I remember specifically that California Ska Quake record or CD. that song called Ooh Ooh a Hi Hi by Hepcat stuck out like so different than anything else. And I thought that I was like, these are like old, I thought they were like old men, you know, like in their 50s or 60s. Not saying that's old, but you know, like for a 12-year-old, that's an old age.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I got to check out this Hepcat band. It just made sense, like I said. So I went to a Hepcat show and I saw kids in pork pie hats and like really cool suits and Fred Perry's and Ben Sherman's and bomber jackets and seeing skinheads and like just the whole scene. And it was like, whoa, this isn't the ska that I thought I knew about. This is really cool. This is actually like,
because everything else was in your imagination.
Everything else was like, yeah, third wave ska, punk, skateboard and punk and all that, you know, it was just like, it was cool, but it wasn't like, when I saw this scene, I was like, I got to get into this.
Yes, sir.
And just like most kids in the early 90s, there's no internet or anything like that. So what did you do? You go record store shopping. And you would buy CDs just by looking at or records. I'd buy vinyl at a place called Lou's Records.
Mm-hmm.
It would just all be word of mouth. You'd go to a ska show and you see a kid with a bomber jacket and he's got like a Let's Go Bowling patch or a Aggrolites patch or a Specials or something like that. And it'd be like, ooh, I got to look into that. You keep a mental note, you know, of things to go look at when you go to Rhino Records next time. Or you just buy something off a whim. Like I said, you'd see a picture of the cover and you go, this looks like it could be cool. Right. Mm-hmm. And eventually as that went on, I got into the two-tone thing. And then I got into the straight up old ska music. And by the time I was about 15 years old, there was a girl that moved out to Rialto. And she was the ultimate rude girl. You know, she had the bob and the Doc Martens and the flight jacket. And she was just like, she opened my mind to the old school. She showed me Cimarip and, you know, obviously the Aggrolites. And the biggest thing she introduced me to was Trojan Records. And then it was Heartbeat Records. And I'd start going and buying just every Trojan or Heartbeat compilation I could. And just reading the notes.
Yes.
And I found like a mail order of that Trojan had on one of their CDs, and I mailed a postcard, self-addressed postcard, so they could send it back. And I just start looking at stuff. If I saw a name on like a Trojan compilation, it'd say, you know, Alton Ellis. I'd go look for an Alton Ellis album. And I had a lot of duds, man. There's a lot of CDs, like, you know, a lot of Byron Lee ones. Byron Lee and the Dragoneers is so amazing. But there'd be like an album called Soca Aerobics or something that it's like, what is it? You know, there'd be Byron Lee is one of my favorites, by the way. So, but you understand, it's like you'll find something like, wait, this isn't that style of ska. And just over all the years, man, getting more and more into it, man. There's stuff that as a teenager I was just all about, you know, 1960s ska and rocksteady and early reggae. And nowadays I'm loving a lot of like dance hall and things like that I wouldn't even listen to back in those days, you know? So it's just
musical evolution, man. Evolution.
Yeah, exactly.
While not leaving the past behind, you're carrying, of course, those traditional stuff in your memory.
Yeah. Yeah. To this day, I'm in love with the Specials and Madness, and the Skeletones always are like a special part in my, you know, heart, just because that was the local heroes, you know, being from the city, not too far from me. And then of course, Hepcat. I mean, to this day, Hepcat's like the number one for me. The biggest influence of getting into that music is
right.
Hepcat.
So your baptism, some of the bands that influence you, you talk about the ones from California. And,
yes.
But deep influence to the point where you decided you're going to form a band.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So when I was about same age, 15 or so, 16, got my driver's license, and had a little pickup truck that I got. And that girl that I was telling you about, the rude girl, she had a cool hip boyfriend at the time. And he was like the ultimate rude boy guy. He was hanging out at the L.A. ska scene. And he knew that I was a musician, because anytime I'd be around, I'm playing. I started playing guitar when I was around 10 or 11 years old. And I was always singing and all that. So he's like, hey, there's these guys out in Whittier, and they're starting a old school skinhead reggae band, and like kind of like the Upsetters. You might be into it, like Cimarip, the Upsetters, that kind of style, the Dynamites. Because I was always trying to start a local ska band in Rialto, and I called it the Authentics, or yeah, the Authentic. I was trying to be like the Scott, the Aggrolites record, And it was just like force feeding. I was like the bad guy of the band because I was always just on people's ass, because all the people that I would, you know, convert into being in a band, they wanted to play third wave and ska punk. And I'd be like, nope, we're all going to the store. We're getting Fred Perry's and Ben Sherman's, and we're going to all dress like this. And I'd like shove Hepcat down their throats and the Scatolites. So it was a fun band and everything. And I'm still friends with a few of those guys, but my buddy knew what I really wanted to play. So when he knew these friends trying to form this band and they needed a guitar player and a drummer, that ended up becoming the Rhythm Doctors. So I took my guitar, drove out to Whittier, California, and it was our original bass player. His name is Mark Perrine. It was his house, and we would rehearse in his basement. And the guy that answered the door, though, was Mark Kwan, who you know Mark Kwan, obviously.
Yes.
And the funny thing was, they didn't have a drum. It was just Mark Kwan, our bass player, Mark Perrine, Mark on organ, and this guy named Tall Paul. Tall Paul was like the coolest rude boy guy in the scene. To this day, he's like the coolest dude, you know? He was a lot older than us, so he already knew the stuff. You know, he was a good 7, 8, 9 years old, like a lot older than us. And so Mark answered the door, and I'm like, hey, I'm there with my guitar. But he thought that Gary, my buddy, was telling him I was a drummer. So I'm like, no, I don't play drums. So we ended up having this band for a good, I don't remember how long exactly, but it was a few good months where we would rehearse every Sunday in Whittier, and we didn't even have a drummer. It would be me on guitar.
So the bass player would keep time.
Yeah. And Paul just played a bongo, like percussion. He didn't play, so it was no drummer. But it was like kind of like going to school. Like we were all getting educated and learning and letting each other borrow tapes and cassette tapes. And before you knew it, we were like, you know, Mark Kwan, especially, that guy he'd get into things. If he was into something, he'd get into it. So he was ordering books and, you know, going to Barnes and Noble, he finding like the reggae, what is it? The encyclopedia,
Yes.
By that. And like People Funny Boy, the Lee Perry book on Lee Perry, like just all these books. And he would read about it. And so before you knew it, it was like, hey man, we're going to be like what Hepcat did to ska, we want to do for reggae, because everybody at that time was playing like all the scene that when it went to like traditional ska, Hepcat kind of started that. I mean, like there's like Let's Go Bowling and stuff that was playing like old school, but it was still upbeat and had that like two-tone influence. But Hepcat went right for the jugular as far as the Jamaica ska.
Amazing.
And there was really no skinhead reggae, early reggae style bands with a organ lead player. But there was one band out of Santa Barbara, which was called Dynamic Pressure. And those guys were mind-blowing to us. So it was like, we want to be just like these guys, but have a little bit
mind-blowing in their
amazing
level.
Amazing. Yeah, amazing. They were, to this day, I mean, you put on a Dynamic Pressure record and
I gotta find it.
You think it's straight out of Jamaica.
The
anyways,
band no longer exists?
I'm sorry?
The band doesn't exist anymore?
No, but the guys all still play. I'm sure you've heard maybe the Volcanoes record, Junior Thomas and the Volcanoes. And there's a band called the Sand Dollar Sound.
Yes.
And so Dan Bower, he's the organ player. He was the organ player, and Zach Pike, he was the guitar player. And Dan is all over the first Aggrolite record. He was the first organ player of the Aggrolites. So all the guys still play. They play in multiple projects and a lot of things. So they're still around. But Dynamic Pressure, no, the band doesn't exist anymore. They've moved on to a lot of different things, projects. But yeah.
Interestingly enough, when I first saw the Rhythm Doctors, I said, this is a resurrection of Jackie Mittoo.
Yeah. Well, that was
mind-blowing.
That was the idea. It was like,
I kid you not.
It was let's play instrumental, let's get the organ player in front, and let's do this thing. Like, you know, the Upsetters were so rad. Like, how did people you would only I think Greg Lee from Hepcat, he had explained it. He said that kind of music everybody knew about, but they were listening to that. And forgive me, Greg Lee, if I'm, you know, putting words in your mouth or saying, but from my understanding, what he said to me one time was that was like the music that people were playing at house parties or at barbecues, but you weren't going out and seeing that live, you know? So when we started the Rhythm Doctors, we wanted to do that live, and Jackie Mittoo style, you know, or Upsetters, like let's put that organ player out front. And Mark Kwan had it, man. Like the the vibe the dude went for, because he was just a little skinhead kid, you know what I mean? But he's like, I'm gonna grow my hair out. I'm gonna get an afro. I'm gonna start dressing up in like different, you know, like, and just pull the Jackie Me Too kind of. We watch old videos of Jackie Me Too and how he danced around, and Mark put his own flair into that, and that was like the whole. That was it, you know. It was like we were the band, but Mark Kwan was, you know, it was the Rhythm Doctors, but it was Kwan. It was mostly him,
right.
you know.
Yeah, I think that high energy came out of at that particular time when people kind of get tired of rocksteady, you know. So when that energy, I mean, people those times where that high energy came out. I mean, just went
you know what?
Literally everywhere.
I remember Greg Lee, he was saying how when you go to ska shows, that'd be the music that the DJs would play. That's what he said. He'd say that would be the music that the DJs would play while the bands were breaking down and setting up. That'd be the, you know, the music you'd hear on the sound systems.
Right.
But other than Dynamic Pressure, there was really nobody that was, forgive me if I'm wrong, L.A., but I don't recall anybody doing it like Dynamic Pressure, and nor the Rhythm Doctors, you know. That was pretty much it, you know. And
then also part of a band called Kingston 10. Am I right or am I right?
Corey Kingston, yeah, Kingston 10. That was a great band. They were more, they
that after or before?
I don't know the year Kingston 10 started. I know all the guys. I've played with them. Corey was in the Aggrolites for many years.
Was drummer Corey.
Corey Horn, yeah, the drummer. Yeah, I mean, Kingston 10 though, they were still a ska band. You know what I mean? Like they were still playing ska, rocksteady, touching into the reggae thing. But when I mean there was nobody doing it like the Rhythm Doctors or Dynamic Pressure, what I mean is that organ-driven, instrumental, early reggae. Like we like honing it down into like just 1968 to 1970 something. Shortly after the Rhythm Doctors started playing, because it started becoming like a monthly thing. The ska scene, like Luis from Steady Beat, Eric Kohler, our friend, there was guys promoting a lot of shows, and it was a lot of gigs going down at the Whiskey A Go-Go at the time. And then San Francisco still had a big scene over that way. So we were playing at least twice a month, but locally, you know. And there was shortly after the Aggrolites had started to get fairly, popular in that scene, there were bands coming up playing, and there was another band called the Vessels. And the Vessels just killed it, man. Like I remember when the Aggrolites broke up, I was like, God, I want to join the Vessels. So, or not the Aggrolites, I'm sorry. When the Rhythm Doctors broke up, I was like, I want to get in this band, these Vessel guys.
Till this date, I thought you were always one of the members of the Vessels. I had no idea.
No, they were.
Because they're from the Inland Empire.
Yeah, they were. Jay Bonner. Jay Bonner was from Ranch Cucamonga. A lot of those guys, like they would rehearse in Ranch Cucamonga every week. But they were like, in all respect, saying when they say we were reggae nerds, I don't mean it like, but they were just as reggae nerd as us, like if not more. Those guys would they'd listen to that music till they're trying to figure out how to play that certain bubble and that skank and do it correctly. And then the talent of like Brian Dixon, who was he was the sound engineer for the Rhythm Doctors record. Jay Bonner was the sound engineer for the Vessels stuff. He had a little analog, like 4-track or something in his, or 8-track, I forget what it was, in his garage, and just nerded out on the sound, how to make that sound vintage, how to get that, that saturated just tone, keeping it just like raw, to where that's what we loved about Hepcat. That Scientific album at the time just sounded, and Ocean 11 too. That was another one. Ocean 11, man. Listening to those two bands back in those days was just like, man, this is amazing.
3-part harmony, wicked.
Yeah, everything on that Ocean 11 record is amazing, man. That was another one that I bought like shortly after Hepcat, and I couldn't stop. And that introduced me to Phyllis Dillon, like Persephone's voice. I never heard of Phyllis Dillon until I heard Persephone first, and a lot of other songs on that. It was a couple years later when I'd go, wait a minute, Ocean 11 always covered that. I thought that's an original song, and it ends up being some old Jamaican classic, you know what I mean? So pretty amazing stuff, man.
So
like blessing to be from LA, like the LA scene.
You're not kidding. So now we move into the formation of the Aggrolites. How that came about, and on or about what year?
So the Aggrolites was always kind of, with me and Brian Dixon, we remained friends over the years. Corey was also still our friend, who was the drummer of the Rhythm Doctors. So it was us three members, and me and Brian were hanging out a lot. And during that time, I was playing in a punk rock band. I was a drummer in a punk rock band, and we were called The Misguided.
You were a drummer?
I was a drummer in a punk rock band, yeah, for a few years. And there was also C-Spot, and Brian was nice enough to ask Brad Pate if I could join C-Spot. And you know, luckily they all liked me from my playing in the Rhythm Doctors. So it was like, yeah, dude, throw Jesse on. So yeah, I was playing in C-Spot, and then Brad Pate and Brian made a After Hours record. It was called, I don't know, you know the After Hours album. It's just all Brian and Brad made
the last week.
yeah. So it's like all LA musicians, like they grabbed all their favorite guys and would just do studio stuff.
Deep stuff.
So keeping in touch with Brian and becoming really close with him, we were always talking about starting another band like the Rhythm Doctors, but making it more in your face, you know what I mean? Rather than being like this instrumental band, let's be more like, you know, like a punky kind of like the Specials or the Clash, like more of a punky thing with a vocalist. And Simmerip at the time was like the vibe we were trying to go for. It's like, let's go Upsetters or the Dynamites meets Simmerip, you know, that kind of vibe. And Brian had always known that I sang, but I never sang professionally. I just, well, as a kid, you know, I sang in things like that, but I was like, I could give it a shot. He's like, dude, you're going to be the singer. That's it. We're going to do it. So Brian, being the guy that he was, very popular as a sound engineer and mixer and producer, he put together the guys. We had talked about it. And it was like, who are we going to get? We got to get Corey, you know, Corey's the man. And then it was like, these Vessel guys, dude, we got to get these dudes in. And that's how we got Roger, and ended up getting Jay. And he wanted to get Dan Bower on organ. And so it was like, yeah, let's just put together our favorite guys. Let's form this, what we would call a super group of this style of reggae. And there we went through a few changes. Like Dan was in the beginning, and then Dan had other obligations to where he couldn't be playing shows all the time, and you know, so we had Roger step up. You know, Roger was just playing piano, and then Roger stepped up. Jay Bonner was, you know, he was the organ player of the Vessels, but when he came to join the Aggrolites, he was like, I want to get a shot at bass. He went out and bought a bass rig and a bass, and he ended up being like one of the most badass bass players out there. You know what I mean?
The same Roger on keys?
Oh, it's that? Yeah, Roger Rivas. Our Roger now, the Roger that's still in the Aggrolites. Yeah. Yeah, he stepped up. And if you the Dirty Reggae album, when we were making that record, we had no idea I mean, everybody had a vision and hopes and dreams and stuff, but it was more of like, let's just have fun. And Brian was like always generous with the studio and like, hey, I got the studio, let's make some music. So we weren't planning on like exactly making a record. You know, we were recording all the time in the studio, but we weren't like, let's write a hit album and put it out and tour it, you know? Like we were doing that stuff. Like, I don't remember exact dates and all that, but the album actually came out, I believe it was like 2003, but we were jamming around since 2002, 2001. You know, there was like a whole gap of just like, you know, we were doing like a Derek Morgan album that never got released. And a lot of songs from that, you know, ended up becoming Aggrolite songs. It was just, you know, it was weird. It's weird how it happened, you know. It's kind of like most bands start in the garage, start playing gigs, get signed, and then start touring. You put out a record and then tour. We were kind of like, let's get in the studio, let's record, let's make up stuff on the spot, just like they were doing in Jamaica. Let's record on the spot. Let's just record rhythms and write leads to it as we go along. And then then we were playing gigs, and then we got signed. And so it just, everything kind of happened backwards, but it was totally awesome experience, man. Yeah.
So on the subject of Aggrolites, who were the original members?
It all depends on how original you mean, because like we had originally, it was Roger Rivas, who's still in the Aggrolites now with me, Brian Dixon, a guy named Jubal Molitar, who was a bass player of Dynamic Pressure, and Corey Horn on drums, and Dan Bower on organ, and Roger was on piano. So it was a 6-piece. Jubal fell out somehow, and that's when we got Jay up, and that's when Jay was like, I want to play bass. So the real actual, how I would want to say the real Aggrolites, because we've had multiple drummers. We've had Scott Abel sit in for a long time in the very beginning because Corey had shattered his ankle. So Scott was there for us playing gigs and killing it. We had a guy named Matt Parker who was from a band called The Donkey Show and the Adjusters out of Chicago. Matt Parker filled in and played organ for a little while after Dan Bower left. But the real Aggrolites, the touring Aggrolites that everybody knew in the face and the shows, and when we started going at it, like, this is it, Roger, me, Brian, Corey, and Jay. And that lasted for a good long time. I don't know how many years. It felt like forever back then, but as you get older and you look at the time gaps, it's like, man, that was a short amount of time, but it felt a lot happened in those years, you know.
So having given props to the originators, for lack of a better definition, who are the present members now?
The present members now it's still me and Roger. So we're the original players. It's Chris Brennan on rhythm guitar, and Chris Brennan plays in multiple different groups.
I know him.
And then there's Jeff Rafredo, who he played in C-Spot as well, and he was actually a psychobilly bassist. He played in bands like Tiger Army and Calavera, and so he played upright bass. He was like but Jeff grew up with his older sister who influenced him on ska and all that. So Jeff was like he knew all about ska. He knew about reggae and all that since he was a little kid. So, and then on drums, we kind of skip around. Sometimes we have our drummer, Alex Mckenzie, who's been with us since 2007. And Alex ended up, he's got a full-time job. So we had to start using substitute drummers. So we've been playing a lot with Eric from a band called the Delirians, and he's a very good drummer as well.
Yeah, these are contemporary names I'm familiar with. But let me take a quick moment to remind our viewers that want to welcome our viewers to the one-on-one sessions. Junor Francis, your host. Eric Kohler, my good friend, is your producer for Rockery Radio. And I'm presently in conversation with today's guest, the dynamic Jesse Wagner, original member of the Aggrolites. He's been playing music for what seems like eternity, perhaps from the age of 10 or thereabout, if not younger.
Playing in bands since I was about 14 or so.
14. So you were destined. Music called you. You didn't call music from something you were saying.
I knew since I was a kid that that's what I want to do. I want to be a musician.
I know about what age when you say a kid?
Geez, man. I remember when I was like 12 years old, 12 years old, my dad telling stories about his heyday, and the band and playing here and playing there and, all the good and bad. And it just seemed like that's what I want. So I say pretty much since I was about 12 or 13 years old, I was doing a lot of acting, like I said, when I was a kid. I was in plays and theater stuff with my sister, and I ended up getting lucky, and I got an agent. And I had an agent who would go on calls, like for commercials. And there was I was in a Hidden Valley Ranch commercial when I was a kid and stuff like that. And it got to the point to where it was really hard on my parents to drive back and forth from Rialto to Hollywood multiple times a week. Just the money was, and for me to only nail like 1 or 2 commercials in like 4 years, it got to the point where it was just like, this is, and I remember I just wasn't into it anymore. I was playing guitar, and like I said, I just always had headphones and a cassette. And I remember making that decision where I was like, I don't want to get into acting. I want to play music. And they were like, okay, so that was it. I went
everyone was happy.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone, they were happy that they didn't need to spend gas money and all that driving back and forth, getting out of work early, pulling me out of school. Like, no, it was a good thing that I chose music, because that's something I just did on my own with my friends and, you know, stuff like that. So.
Yes, sir. So what was it like being part of the experience, being one of the members back in such legends, to the best of my recollection, Phyllis Dillon, really and truly queen of rocksteady, Derek Morgan, the king of ska, and I dare not leave out Prince Buster.
Yeah.
Talking about these three are really and truly institutions in their own right. What was it like for you as a youngster?
I couldn't even explain to you how, I mean.
Don't even try, it's hard to be honest.
I mean, yeah, it's like, God, it's, because those were the records, you know what I mean? Those are people I never thought I'd meet in my life. I'd never thought Phyllis Dillon, Prince, all three of them, the three that you just named, but like even Rhythm Doctors, when we found out Cedric Brooks lived locally and was willing to play, it was like, God, dude, I'm 17, 18 years old, and I'm playing guitar next to this legendary saxophone player. It's like, I don't know, man. I mean, I can't explain it. I'm sure anybody would know. It's like if you think of your favorite rock star or pop star or whatever music you're into, hip hop artist or something, and you get to not only meet them and shake their hand, but you get to like spend time with them on two different aspects. You get to hear stories from them and things that they did, and they tell you the real stories of how things were. Mm-hmm. And beyond that, you get to share this moment that a lot of people don't even know how to comprehend, which is music. You know, there's that whole like thing on stage, and when you're not even speaking with each other, but your instruments are talking to each other, you know. So it's just a beautiful thing, and I think over anything in my life, those experiences of meeting those people is up there at the top.
We're not just meeting, but also playing with them.
Connecting with them on multiple levels, you know, because there's a lot of people that, you know, like the Skylights, they're all gone now, you know, like it's like nobody's nowadays could say that they saw Tommy McCook or Roland Alfonso.
Right, you're right.
You know,
right. Mm-hmm.
It's crazy, man. Or even Prince Buster, you know, like Alton out, like it's just amazing. It's amazing. And there's people like Eric, you know, Eric Kohler to thank, and you
know, be joining us momentarily
for putting these things together and making these things happen for us. You know what I mean? Because without guys like that, the promoters and the guys behind the stage, those are the guys that are really making the connections and making it happen. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's cool, man. Really cool.
I remember the first time I saw Prince Buster. The first time he came to Northern California, Sierra Nevada World Music Festival. Yeah. I could make it. So where was I? Hot 92 at the time. So the second time he came, I said, I can't miss him.
Yeah.
So when I saw him, I thought he was tall like Derek Morgan.
Yeah, and
I stood next to him. You know, he was just relaxing. So I went and stood sort of behind him a few feet to see him, just to be in his midst. You know, it defies the ordinary at this point.
I remember when we backed up Derek Morgan, asking him questions about Prince Buster. You know, they're falling out of their rivalry. And then asking Prince Buster questions about Derek Morgan and like why he wrote this song or why they wrote that song, and kind of like being that middle guy, just putting pieces of a puzzle together and going, okay, this part's so true, but this part, I think he's a little, you know, and then them saying in the long run, they're still great friends and all that, you know?
Yes, right. But I guess the masses of people didn't know.
Yeah,
that exactly. They were still good friends. Mm-hmm. So I want to shift focus now and ask you about meeting a man who's definitely a household name in the fraternity, Tim Armstrong of Ransted. He's also, I think, the one who signed you to, I think, Hepcat and Hepcat.
He was the guy that.
If I'm wrong, right?
He was the guy that put it all together for us. You know, we had friend. We had a.
Were you friends with him before?
No, I didn't know Tim. I don't think any of us knew Tim other than that he was from Rancid and Hepcat was signed to Hellcat. Mm-hmm. So we knew that Tim was into, you know, I mean, the Hellcat records, we knew what Tim was all about. Mm-hmm. So he's the guy that, real humble, genuine dude, like, and he's the guy that really made things happen for the Aggrolites. And I say in a lot of ways for the ska scene around the world, because I mean, Epitaph was always Epitaph, a great punk rock record label. But when Hellcat came out, he was taking really underground stuff, like extremely underground stuff, and making it very popular, you know. So having meaning like psychobilly or you know ska music, like it's taking bands like Hepcat and putting them on board, you know, like grabbing the Aggrolites. You know, the guy had a real great ear. You know, he knew what he liked, and he had the talent and the ear to not only make great music but also find great music and give those bands a very big opportunity and a chance. You know, so huge blessing. I could never give enough respect to Tim Armstrong and what he's done for me personally, you know.
Fantastic.
Let alone the Aggrolites.
I'm telling you, and for the music scene. You know?
And for the music scene,
yes,
exactly.
Congratulations. So before long, the Aggrolites quickly became road warriors of sort, touring the globe and the entire world. That's no joke. Let's briefly touch on some of the highlights. Opening for Hepcat. Now that's got to be larger than life. And playing the Van Warp tour, touring, I guess, with Madness.
Yes.
Playing the Flag in Mali tour.
Yep. Yeah.
And I guess also with the Slackers from the East Coast.
Yeah, we great friends with those guys over all the years.
Explain to us.
I'll say, like everybody we've met throughout the years, you know, you always hear these horror stories, like, oh, that guy's a jerk, or that band's a bunch of jerks, and they act like rock stars, they're snobby. Everybody that we've ever toured with or done big tours with, like the Warped Tour, people are amazing, man. Like, and it's like just a really great connection, getting to know all these people. You named it, like all these things you just said. Even playing Coachella was like, man, I'd never in my life thought we'd have the opportunity to play Coachella. Another thing to thank Eric Kohler for. But it's like, you know,
he'll be doing this momentarily.
Yeah, it's like, wow, going to Europe. I never thought I'd go into freaking Austria or let alone Poland, or like Poland, really? People listen to reggae music in Poland, or going to Brazil or China, Japan, or, you know, like just half these countries that you hear about your whole life. Switzerland. I always thought, I picture Switzerland, I think of the Matterhorn at Disneyland growing up, you know, and then I'm in Switzerland going, oh man, this is freaking amazing. You know what I mean? So, but like when you mentioned the Madness tour, the feeling of that was just unbelievable, because we were playing in front of, you know, 10, 15,000 people, you know, on some nights. We're playing big arenas. We're opening up for No Doubt was amazing. You know, we played the Gibson Amphitheater, or the coolest thing that a lot of non-musicians, or not the coolest thing, but one thing a lot of people don't really understand that's always hard to express is you could be a regular average guy that plays in a band, and some nights you could be playing for 80, I think the biggest crowd we've ever played for was around 70 or 80,000 people in France one night. Not to see us, but it was a festival, you know, it was a big.
Yeah, you were on the festival.
But somebody didn't show up at the right time slot, so they threw us on, and it was like go time, you know what I mean? But you could be playing a concert one night for 80,000 people, and the next night you're playing in some, you know, country bumpkin city for 14 people in a bar. You know what I mean? It's never this, like, that's just my experience of it. As like touring, like
it's the same for a lot of bands, right?
Yeah, one day you're in a freaking tour bus and you're getting catering every day, and then the next day you're sleeping on the floor in a van, spending the night on somebody's freaking kitchen floor, you know, and drinking beer for the night to fill your stomach because it's the only thing that's free in the house. You know, just like crazy. It's crazy, like ups and downs, man. And it's just the whole ride is just you know, it's a wild experience that I don't know how to tell it for people to understand.
Keep enjoying it, man. Yeah. So back to Aggrolites again. Yeah. So many things to talk about. You guys have 6 full-length albums to your credit.
We have Dirty Reggae. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of what we have.
Maybe 7 or 8.
Dirty Reggae, self-titled, Reggae Hit L.A. 4. Then it gets kind of weird. We got a live record, and then we got
that's
Rugged Road, and then, and now we just came out with Reggae Now. So yeah, about 6 or 7, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I undercount. So thanks for the correction. Thanks for the schooling. So that's a major accomplishment.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Huge.
How long
huge
now? You didn't say precisely when the band was formed, but
so the band, yeah, it's hard to say when the band was formed because we were kind of
sort of evolution, right?
Yeah, I'd say we started roughly around 2002 when we were like actually calling ourselves the Aggrolites and playing, and making the album. But Dirty Reggae came out, I believe, 2003. So roughly around 20 years we've been.
6 albums, not bad at all, man. Not bad. 6
albums. And those first few albums were like one after another. When we were on Hellcat, it was like, let's get them out, then we took a while to come out with the next ones. Guys got older, touring became the main thing where it was just like, there was no time like there was when we weren't touring as much. 150 days a year to 200 days a year sometimes was just getting brutal. So when you'd come home, you didn't even want to look at each other. We all loved each other, but you know what I mean? It's like, let's go home to our families and not think the word Aggrolites for a month or so.
So I wanted to ask you, so when you're two decisions, you have to make fundamentally 2 principal decisions. One, what songs to pick to put on an album, and what songs to rehearse. How do you distinguish? Draw the line of demarcation. How that process is done?
It was all hit and miss, trial and error. You know what I mean? Like it
can't be trial and error for live performance.
Yeah, we never know. I mean, you after being together for so long, we know off of what albums, what are the hitters. But we would just, I don't know, we just shoot. We took guesses. Like we have a song called Countryman Fiddle or Mr. Misery, which are like big sing-along tunes. And we always knew that sing-along thing was going to be a good idea because you go to like a skinhead at Oi show and they're always, take them all, put them up. Everybody's singing, And I think it was like opening up for Flogging Molly kind of put that in our heads too, because they used to do a song called, it's a Tom Jones song, why, Delilah? You know that song?
What do you mean? Of course.
And they do their own version of it, but they'd get the audience, like the whole ending. So, it was like, let's do Don't Let Me Down, but do the same thing that Flogging Molly did for Delilah. But let's make Don't Let Me Down the big chanty theme song. And the Simmerip record too. Skinhead Moonstomp, every song is a sing-along. You know what I mean? Yeah. Just that whole thing. So we always knew those sing-alongs were going to be great. So when we did Dirty Reggae and when we did the self-title, we were like, we got to write sing-alongs. Jesse, you got to go in there and come up with some kind of like chanting, chorus that everybody can sing as a group. So those were premeditated, and a lot of other ones were like, let's just see how this sticks tonight. And there's a lot of songs that we just don't do live because they were bad. They were bad on certain tours. You know what I mean? So yeah, hit and miss, I guess.
I guess you're absolutely right. So over the years, you've become good friends with Linval Golden Affair.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's your idol. How did you guys cement that relationship, that friendship?
It was so cool. Just Linval came to us. He found us. We found him when we were kids. We grew up on him. But no, after we did that Madness tour, so we played the UK a lot of times, London and stuff like that, and it'd be shit. It'd be nobody there. Like it was hard. It was like playing around the United States is a hard place.
In club, when you played a club?
Yeah, we'd play for 15 people in London and we'd be like, man, this sucks. Let's get out of here. But when Madness picked up on us and invited us on that arena tour, the buzz got around that two-tone scene. I get those guys were spreading the word. They were letting the special guys know about us and Rhoda Dakar and they were telling what's his name, Gaz Mayall and so on. The buzz got around to the older two-tone scene guys that, hey, there's this band doing this stuff that we always wanted to do.
Pay attention.
So we played at London one night and guess who's there? Linval's there. And it's like, and of course we're like going to invite him backstage and hang, right. And just, that was it, man. It clicked. It was like, hanging out with him felt like I was hanging out with one of my best friends that I've known forever. Like so down to earth and just genuine.
He's in a class by himself.
Yeah, and he stayed in touch. Like he was free, like open enough to give us his number and email. And his wife she was an Aggrolite fan, so when he'd be on the road, we'd communicate through her to him. And it turned to the point to where, yeah, we were like, hey, you want to come up on stage and sing with us whenever? And he'd come up and sing with us or play with us. And yeah, it's now he's like, I call him Uncle Linville, like he came to my wedding. Like we invited him to the wedding, and he flew from Seattle, with his wife, and came out to the wedding and hung out and partied with us. He feels like a family member now. And it's like, it's still, I'm in awe about the whole, like you said earlier about Phyllis Dillon or Prince Buster. And now it's like these two-tone legends, it's like, man, I'm good. I'm good with it, with all the great musicians I've met. I'm privileged and lucky enough to have met so many people that I idolized growing up and loved.
Yeah, the power and the glory of this music just puts you in contact with so many wonderful people.
Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I couldn't ask for anything more, man. It's like, it's fun.
You could ask for meeting toots. How did that? You could ask for more meeting toots. And
yeah. No, I met Toots too. And that
was going to be my next question. How did that happen?
Jeez, man. Oh God.
Another person who is in a class by himself.
Yeah. Oh, that's my that's my number one. As far as like vocalist, man. Like he's like, geez, I'm trying to think of the first time I've met him or seen. I mean, I've seen him on multiple, like the Santa Monica Pier and things like that, and shook his hand. But we were on a European tour, and he was on. So it was a big summer festival. So it was a good couple months on the road, but playing like big festivals all over Europe. Mm-hmm. And within a lot of those festivals, there was a lot of reggae ones, and we would see him, and me and a couple other guys like Roger or Jeff. Every time he'd have his set, we'd get to the festival. We'd what do you call it? Like sign in, get our tour bus parked, and we'd run right over to the thing and find out what time Toots is playing. And we'd run right over. We didn't care if we were going on right after Toots on another stage down the a mile away or something. We were like, we're right here watching. So we do that every single time. I think there was about 3 or 4. I might be wrong, but a few. There was like maybe 3 or 4 different dates that he was on that we were also on. Mm-hmm. And I'd always be there, me and a few guys, and he'd start to remember us, because we'd be like these goofy American guys on the side singing along. No, but he is good that way. He is good. And we'd go through crossing, and he'd be like, "Yeah, man," and we'd like shake his hand, and he'd take a picture with. And sure enough, by the end of the tour, the last day that we're playing with them, our trailer's like right by his trailer, our dressing room. Mm-hmm. And he had gotten off stage, and I'm walking by, and I see his daughters were like his backing vocalist, something, and he was outside, and I'm nervous, but I've got a little liquid courage in me, and it's like it's now or never. Like I got to. And he, sure enough, was so nice. He invited me into his trailer. And we started talking about, I started just telling him what a fan I am, how much I love his music, all the songs. And I asked if he'd sing with me. And we started singing. And it turned into this like 15-minute version of one of his songs that I got lucky enough to get on film and post about. I've seen it,
which is why I'm asking.
And, yeah, he poured a glass of Hennessy, and the ganja was going around, and it turned into like a little quick 20-minute party in Toots's trailer. So I mean, I don't have the stories of getting to know him like how we got to know Prince Buster or Derek Morgan, right, or Phyllis Dillon, but I mean, it was cool to party with him for 15 minutes, 20 minutes in his dressing room.
Not too many people can say that.
No.
I'm gonna ask you about Dave, but yes. Let me remind the viewers that this is History of L.A. Skia one-on-one sessions, and I'm Junor Francis, your host, and I'm in conversation. Jesse Wagner, vocalist, guitarist, drummer, musician, practically from birth, of the great Aggrolites. And as you can see, he is. What are you drinking? Not Red Stripe, because
everybody always thinks I'm drinking. No, I'm actually drinking Squirt.
I don't think alcohol because I hardly drink.
Oh, you have a drink. Well, that's good. Take a sip.
Yeah, so I just wanted to remind the viewers that I'm in conversation with you, so they'll know who I'm talking to.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yes.
it's domestically grown and harvested man who spent all his year preserving the integrity and the character of Jamaican music. So I want to thank you and thank your parents too. Now, in 2007, our Los Angeles community lost a great friend. He was also a dear friend of yours, Dave Fuente, bass player. As a matter of fact, it's been said more than once that he was one of the best bass players in Los Angeles. I didn't get to meet him. I didn't interact with him much. I've seen him maybe once or twice. But that has been said. That has been said by pundits that he's one of the best.
And I'd agree with that 100%.
He was also a friend of yours, right?
Yeah, there was, I mean, so like as I was talking about earlier, for the people out there listening that have never heard of Hepcat, Dave was the bass player of Hepcat. And he had a certain style to him where it was just it's the coolest, I don't know, it was like he just played like, and the way he'd move and dance, it was just like he was the bass player. But you couldn't take your eyes off of him when he played. And the style, like when he'd play ska, he played it like Brennan, you know, from the Aggrolites. Like he could stick on one note for an entire, you know, phrase of a instrumental song, and it would just sound perfect, you know. It was just his timing. He'd play just slightly behind the beat, you know. He was an amazing guy. But more important than his bass playing, his personality. Out of the Hepcat guys, I got fortunate enough to become friends with all of them and actually play guitar for them a few different times, and become close with those guys too, which is just as important to me as meeting Prince Buster or Toots. But Dave was one of the first, and Dave was one of those kind of guys where, you know, I'm a kid. I'm like, you know, 18 years old, 19 years old, maybe even younger. And just getting these guys seeing us play, like the Rhythm Doctors playing in Mark Kwan's garage, and Dave Fuentes is there, you know, outside. It's just like having Linville Golding watch us, and it's like, well, Linville Golding's out there. Same thing, just different time and different place. Being in a garage, and then them being in, you know, on the patio or whatever, and Dave's there, and it's like, whoa, there's Dave, you know. And then getting to like meet him, and him going like, hey man, hey, what's up, dude? Yeah, really good, man. We should exchange numbers and like jam out when we, you know, what, you know, going home. I remember telling my parents, like, dude, the Hepcat guy, I gave him my phone number, man. Like, he said he wants to jam one of these days, you know. And you know, a lot of these people, you don't think they're ever going to call you or ever going to keep in touch, or you think if somebody is going to call you, they're calling you because they want something, like or not like you're saying anything, but they want a favor, like, hey, do you have this guy's number so I could call him to do this? And then it's like, all right. And Dave wasn't like that, man. The phone would ring and it would be Dave. And this was for years, man, from like seriously, from the time I was like 18 or 19 all the way till he passed. That guy would make sure to call. I'm sure he did this to everyone he was friends with, you know, but he would call and he'd answer, hello? Hey, what up, dude? What's up, Dave? How's it going? And then you're just waiting for the reason why he's calling. There would be no reason. He just called to talk. And it's like, man, this is like a real guy. You know what I mean? Like he just, and sure, then you end up staying on the phone with him for a half hour, shooting the shit about absolutely nothing and no real reason, just to say what's up. You know what I mean? And a lot of people don't do that these days, you know? And even back then, it was like getting on a phone call usually meant business. You know what I mean? Unless you like grew up with somebody your whole life, or it was like your mom or your sister, your brother, you know. But just a person like that, like a musical, you know, a lot of people would just, it would always be a reason. There's a gig coming up. Can you sit in or this or that? And Dave didn't do that. He just called to say hi, how you doing? And that's how he was, man.
And you have worked with him on a couple of occasions, right? In I think the Dubcat one, and he filled in on Aggrolites on one or two occasions, right? Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah, Dave was actually, it was after Jay Bonner had left the band. It was Jay was a hard person to replace, you know what I mean? So it was like, well, we can't stop. We got to get somebody, you know what I mean? And Dave was the guy that came to mind. So we had talked to him. I don't believe Hepcat was doing, I don't think they were even playing it much, maybe not at all at the time. I don't remember if Hepcat was doing it, but anyways, yeah, Dave sat in, and Dave had a family, he had a wife and kids, and he had a regular job. So it was going to be a challenge to get Dave to commit like full time. And it was getting there to where Dave actually was going to be our guy. So we were excited, man, because he fit in like perfectly. And that's the other thing too with Dave as a musician. Besides his playing, his presence, like when I was saying, you can't take your eyes off of him. Something David had expressed to me one night on tour was, when you join a band that you didn't start, you got to develop and become a part of that band. Mm-hmm. So when Dave played with Dubcat, which was ex-members of Long Beach Dub All-Stars and ex-members of Hepcat, mm-hmm. It was more of that kind of like beachy, kind of sublime scene type thing. And Dave knew exactly how to just get in there. When Dave played with Hepcat, he knew how to be that rude boy, that old ska. And he said, same thing with the Aggrolites. You guys have this this thing. You wear the prison clothes. You got this like these jumpsuits. I'm gonna put my own flair. And sure enough, Dave comes to practice. He's got Lokes on and a bandana in his back pocket, and Converse. And it was like, dude, like he said, you got to become that, and he did that. He was extremely good at like fitting in and blending, not only musically but physically. And there was nothing fake about it. He was still him. He was still Dave. He still put Dave into it. And it really, like, I'm getting chills talking about him, because there was a magic to Dave that is really hard to find. And I know everybody that knew Dave knew that. That's why it was such a huge horrible thing when he passed away, and how many people's hearts were hurt because we lost a real a legendary guy. And this, the short time that he was around, man, he really proved himself to the world of who he was and what he was capable of doing. So
taken away from us way too early, sir.
Oh yes,
yes, sure. Sir. You recorded a children's album.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about the inspiration that propelled.
Okay. All right. So the Aggrolites had done a TV show called Yo Gabba Gabba, which was a children's show on Nickelodeon, and we covered it's Roy Ellis called the EK Bunch. It's similar, pretty much. Mm-hmm. A song called Banana, and that song ended up becoming such a big hit for us that it became like the other Don't Let Me Down song. Like we had to do Banana every night of the week. Banana, and we built a whole new audience. It was like when we first started, our audience was skinheads and rude boys and rude girls, mods. And then when we got signed to Hellcat, it started to be like punk rock kids were getting into us, and you'd see Mohawks out there. And then once we got into this Yo Gabba Gabba show, we're starting to see like moms, like soccer moms and families and kids and little kids coming, with shirts that say Banana. And it's like, wow, So for years, a friend of mine, as was him and his wife, who had recently had a baby, were like, you got to do a freaking album. Aggrolites have to do a children's record.
Some encouraging words, eh?
Yeah, the Aggrolites have to make a kids record. But the Aggrolites were so busy touring that it was the last thing on our mind, make a record, let alone make a children's album. You know what I mean? And I had recently bought a laptop, and there's a free program that a lot of you guys out there know about called GarageBand. And when you're on the road, you got nothing better to do. I'm sitting in a hotel room, and instead of watching TV in a language I can't understand, I was sitting on GarageBand learning how to use that program. So I wrote a lot of these songs, recorded a lot of these songs in hotel rooms or in my little apartment, and it just became a fun project. I got my sister involved in it. She has 3 boys, and at the time she had 2 boys. And when I'd come home from tour, I did the family thing. I'd go hang out with my sister and my brother-in-law and my nephews, and so a lot of inspiration came from them. Mm-hmm. Just like my sister telling, hey, use your words. It's like, me and her like, hey, that's a song. Use the words. Did you pee-pee in the potty? Oh, hey, let's write a song. So
all those original compositions.
Yeah, don't touch the buttons. Don't touch the buttons. So it's like, all right, let's write a song telling kids not to touch the buttons.
So the royalty check from that should be decent, man.
Yeah, there's even a song on that record called Baby Dean, where I'm trying to tell this baby named Dean to go to sleep. And that song is a true story, because one night I was babysitting and my nephew Dean was a little baby. He wouldn't go to sleep. So it's like, I'm going to write a song called Baby Dean. So it was just like that. I didn't know what to expect out of it. I didn't know what label to send it to. I mean, who wants to put out a solo record? And sure enough, I was always a fan of Mike Park and Asian Man Records and Skank and Pickle from when I was a kid. And I had known that Mike Park had recently started a children's album or a children's label, where he was signing like Greg from the Bouncing Souls and his wife Shanti. They had a thing called Play Date. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go on a whim here. I'm going to get in contact. I never talked to Mike Park in my life, and I'm going to tell him I got a whole bunch of songs. I've never put out an album by myself. I did this whole thing on my laptop. I'm going to have your help. Like, what do you need to have it done? Or and he backed it up 100% and signed it. And that was it, man. Got it on digital things, but nothing really big ever happened with the children's album. It's I got to sell I would sell a couple records here and there on tour at the merch table, but the kids thing, like I never toured it or put together a band for it or anything like that. It was just more something to do while releasing the insanity of being on the road nonstop. A musical outlet.
What a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I should talk about some of the other bands that you've worked with around the world. The Upper Tones, the Green Room Rockers, Western Standard Time, they're domestically grown and harvested, the Oregonians, and Night Owls.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man.
I mean, you can take that anyway.
Great times, all of them. Green Room Rockers. It was always like a musical friendship where, like Oregon, great musicians from LA, amazing. They don't play ska or reggae. Oh yeah, they're a Los Angeles band. Actually, the two of the founders of Oregon were the original members of the Lions, as you know who the Lions are.
Oh of course.
So yeah, like Sergio and Dan were both in the Lions back in the day. I believe Dan was, but I know Sergio for sure was. And but yeah, man, I mean, it all starts with touring, hanging out every night, being at sound check together, and then like we call it hurry up and wait, where you drive 10 hours to a place. On your way, you see each other at a truck stop or a gas station. You guys go get a bag of Funyuns and a Slim Jim or whatever a Red Bull. Then you drive another 5 hours to get to the club. You set up your stuff, you sound check, and then you sit around for 5 hours until you play. And you'll go follow each other. You guys might stay at the same hotel or not, but it's all those moments not performing where when musicians get together, you talk about music. That's like, you talk about a lot of other things too, but you chit chat about stuff you like, and you find out like, wow, this guy's into this or that guy's into that. You start connecting, and you start seeing each other and really like watching each other's show or each other's stage presence. So when you're being influenced by each other, and so when you're off the road, you don't want that friendship to end. So why not collaborate? And that's how those things begin. So we're going being one of them green room rockers. It's just like, yeah, man, let's not end this here. Me and Vic Ruggiero from the Slackers, the singer of the Slackers.
I was watching that.
Yeah, we developed a really good friendship, and it was like, hey, man, we got a lot in common. You tell really cool stories. I like listening to your stories. And he's like, yeah, man, you're a funny guy. You're an interesting
That's why you guys bouncing off each other.
Yeah, and you just why not? Let's make a record. Let's do something together. And
you guys bounce off each other pretty good.
Yeah, so it's like, if you bounce off each other really good, why not make music together,
Yes, sir.
So
also want to ask you how it feels on an individual level to be part of a subgenre called dirty reggae in Jamaica, or dirty reggae, or agro reggae. How does it feel to you as an individual?
Yeah, well,
collectively, you feel collectively work on this band, but you as an individual, you're the front man.
yeah.
You go out there, you kill it.
It's amazing, man, because when we started the Aggrolites, we had a vision, just as like we were saying how, you know, when we were in the Rhythm Doctors, we wanted to do how Hepcat did and bring that old school reggae out, like they brought the old school ska. When we had the Aggrolites, we wanted to do more of like what the specials, like you know how like Jerry Dammers started the whole two-tone label or the two-tone ska scene. We wanted to have a genre because we knew we're not Jamaican, you know. We're kids from LA. Like, we're never gonna. That's
all right. Another discussion.
We're never gonna be Jamaican. As hard as we want, as much as we listen to it, there's never gonna be that. We're influenced by it. You know what I mean? We're never gonna be Jamaican. So let's be us and let's call it a genre of what we think. And the whole dirty reggae, when we coined it and came up with the name, we always liked those old school, like the way that they recorded in Jamaica. You know, the poor country, or you know, and the studios were like everything was just live, saturated, analog tape, and it was those things that we fell in love with when we were listening to like the Hepcat record and Dynamic Pressure, how it was like Ocean 11, like emulating those things, because sometimes on an old school like Upsetters, for example, if the guitar is like just slightly out of tune or there's something wrong, it was like we love that rawness, you know, that element of it. It just created like, it's so organic. It's so like just like dirt is dirty. It just sounds dirty, you know, like we love that dirty sound. Okay, let's call it dirty reggae. Let's see where it goes. And we always had the vision that we're going to call us dirty reggae, and we're going to stamp dirty reggae on everything we do. Any flyer, any t-shirt, our album, we're going to call it dirty reggae and see if it sticks. And amazingly, man, 20 years later, it is the biggest, most coolest thing to be able to say we started a subgenre of reggae called dirty reggae, you know, and that there's bands out there all over the world, you know, Europe and South America and the United States that call themselves a dirty reggae band. It's like, you feel like, you know, like up there, like this is you know, it's very humbling, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I've seen the influence in Mexico, the Travelers.
Yeah, oh God, those guys are so freaking
compromising. When their session, dirty reggae stuff.
Such an amazing band, man.
When they're back in other bands now, but when it comes to their sets,
so many of these younger bands nowadays are like, whew, I feel good that they're around now and not 15 years ago when we were going, because now it's like, I don't think there's competition now. I think it's like, we'll step down. You guys could, you guys take the light. You know, we were happy being the only band doing dirty reggae.
Yes, those guys are good. I know two of the members are teachers, so that's all they teach music during the daytime, when perhaps you and some of the work, you know, people have to work, but you know, they're really good.
Yeah,
really good. So we are at the tail end of the pandemic. We're dating this show. So what's in store for the Aggrolites, the tail end of 2021? So this is the spring, but
so things are slowly starting to happen, you know, which is so good, because man,
for the band or the country, or I mean, more
for the music industry.
Music, okay.
You know, like things are starting to open up, and you know, we went the whole year without getting a single phone call from our booking agent, and wondering what. Yeah, I mean, it's you can only do so many live stream,
you know what I mean,
performances.
You're not kidding.
So where people are just going to be like, shit, I could watch this on YouTube for free. Like, who's going to pay $10 to sit in their freaking laptop and watch you play a concert? You know what I mean? So that was hard, man. But no, things are starting. We're starting to get phone calls. We're starting to get offers, and yeah, we'll see where the year goes. There is definitely some gigs coming up. June 20th, we're going to be playing Alex's Bar in Long Beach.
So that's your first gig?
That's I believe that's going to be our first one.
If it's not accurate, relatively accurate, since you're going from your memory.
July 10th, there's one out in San Diego called Bay Fest. which will be with Sublime with Rome and other big names. What else are we doing? We're doing Punk Rock Bowling, which has been postponed. They tried it. They postponed it, because of COVID. They tried to push it a few months, and they push it again. And finally, Punk Rock Bowling is happening. So we're doing that this year. And later on, around December time, we're going to be going on the road with the Slackers and doing like a nice holiday run. Some shows on the West Coast, some shows on the East Coast. Don't know the specific dates or anything in my head, but yeah, so things are starting to happen again.
Coast to coast, nothing abroad as yet.
Nothing abroad. We're nothing out of the country yet. But yeah, I'm sure 2022 things will start getting out there again. All depending on everybody's personal lives. Our organ player Roger Rivas has been doing a lot with Jason Mraz, who's a very famous musician, singer, has some hit songs, and he did a reggae record. So Roger's been busy with that. I had nothing I went the whole year doing absolutely nothing. So I decided if I'm going to sit another year and do nothing, I'm going to go to school. So I took up barbering.
Which is what I was going to ask you next. You become a barber now, right?
Yeah. So that's been a fun experience. It's something I've never had any kind of barbering experience other than shaving a couple guys' heads on tour, and that's like anybody could get clippers and shave a head. But no, it's something, like I said earlier, I was telling you about my great grandfather was a barber, and I had a couple family members like on my mom's side that are barbers, and it's just something I've always been interested in. It just seems like such a cool, and I was like, I always knew though it takes 1,500 hours to go through the school.
I see.
And I never had the time because we were touring so much. We were gone, 8 months out of the year. So I called our booking agent in the beginning of this year and I said, hey man, is this going to be like last year or what's going on? Like, are we hitting the road or are we doing it? Because I can't do internet, seeing dedications on the internet. It's pretty much like panhandling on the internet for internet busking. I don't know how much longer I could do this. I need to go to school and I need to find another trade or something that I can retire with or because I can't imagine myself being 75 years old touring 150 days a year, and so that was it. I said, I'm going to school and it's 9 months long and I got to put that first for this year. So that's what I've been doing. I could do little local gigs or maybe little 4-day, 5-day runs or something, but until I'm done and I got that piece of paper saying that I'm official state.
And how much more you have to go?
It's funny you ask because yesterday I accomplished my 400-hour mark. So I have a total of 1,500. So I won't be done until probably December sometime. Like hopefully right before that Slackers tour we're going to do.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But so yesterday was my 400-hour mark. I passed the, they call it mock board where it's the physical exam that you have to do in front of the teacher and all that. So I'm only a quarter of the way through. I still got a lot more.
Oh, I didn't realize
a lot more time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Runabout now, I want to introduce our producer, Eric Kohler, a longtime friend of yours and mine as well.
Hey, there he is.
Jesse, nice to meet you.
And Eric Kohler looks the exact same age he looked 20 years ago when he was hooking up the band.
Jesse, I have to say this. I've known you since pretty much the beginning of your career, at least in the ska scene, and I've learned about you tonight. So
yeah,
I've loved listening to this conversation, and I appreciate the shout outs. And we have a few questions, and this is a new segment.
Coming from our
from social media
fans of yours.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Chose a couple of them because some of them are some of the same questions that Junor asked. So don't want to repeat those, but and in full disclosure to our listeners and viewers, my Junor is one of my partners in crime, my other partner in crime, who Sean Heidkemper.
Oh yeah.
When he and I saw you in the beginning, and Aggrolites, you all were such an amazing spectacle and very Clash-like, and this leads me to this question here, because of the Aggrolites and the Clash-like appeal, in your face and combining different types of music. What importance did Joe Strummer and the Clash have on your musical upbringing and what you brought to the band, as well as some of the other members of the band at the time?
So I have to be completely honest. When I was a teenager growing up, I was a ska kid, man. I listened to ska and reggae. And the only thing I really knew about the Clash was Rock the Casbah, which my sister
Which was big on the radio.
Yeah, so she was also listening to Wham and Madonna. So it was like I just didn't know anything about the Clash. It wasn't until I was in that punk rock band playing drums to where I started actually learning. It was because it was like the punk rock kids hung with the ska kids, and that's how it kind of went. So it was like I became friends with the punk rock kids, and they started showing me Anti-Nowhere League or Stiff Little Fingers, the Clash, Cox Bar, The Business, and I start hearing songs, and I'm hearing like the Clash covering Pressure Drop, and then I'd show them songs like, hey, that's a reggae song, and it was just kind of like this thing where it was like, yeah, we're influencing each other. So that's a lot of the way how the Aggrolites started. Everybody came in with different influences. Brian Dixon was really into everybody loved reggae. That was the connection. But I mean, Brian was into American hardcore, like DC hardcore and that stuff. Me and Corey Horn were really into Tower Power and soul, like old soul stuff. Chicago, Blood, Sweat and Tears, Cold Blood. Roger was really a huge two-tone fan. He loved two-tone, and Jay Bonner was the punk rock guy and reggae, obviously. But I mean, Jay was the big Clash fan. He was the one that he was the guy that was like, hey, there's a band called the Clash. We got to do it, dress like let's start painting our clothes and doing this thing, like this is what the Clash does. So as we were trying to do the specials at the same time, Jay was throwing a lot of that Clash vibe into it too, so.
Yeah. No, it was great.
Huge. Yeah.
Love that. The other question was, during the quarantine, maybe towards the earlier part of it, you were taking dedications from fans.
Yeah, I didn't know what the hell I was gonna do. I didn't know. I honestly was like, I never in my wildest dreams, it was such an unfortunate thing, but I support it. I was totally behind it. Like, stay home, wear a mask, let's get this over with.
Yep.
The faster we do this, the faster we could get back to real life. But anybody was expecting it to last as long as it did. And I got to say, the first month or so was kind of peaceful because, we toured like madmen for 15, 16 years straight. So it was kind of I'm catching up on things, but I got to admit, man, I got weird. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to act. I was socially awkward around the house. I didn't know how I was going to make money. It was just a weird time in my life, And I'm sure for a lot of people all over the world, everybody can relate to this. It's not just a, oh, poor me story. It's everybody, So I was like, I got to make money somehow. How am I going to do this? I'm not playing gigs. This is all I've ever done. I haven't done anything else in 20 years. And I started seeing people started doing this DJ sets. And I was like, okay, cool. There's guys up there somehow setting up their microphone and doing live DJ sets on Instagram and having a little PayPal thing at the bottom. Well, I don't want to freaking charge people. So I talking to my wife one night and I was like, hey, you know what? I think I got this program like GarageBand, except now I got Logic, which is like GarageBand on crack. I was like, I got Logic. I got a little bedroom. I got a microphone. I could do the same. I'm gonna give it a shot and not charge people, but ask for donations and see what people will do.
Yeah.
And it sure enough started going, man. I was like, I got, I think I got over 70 something things in a matter of a couple months. And the way that I am, man, I have a lot of mental issues like OCD and anxiety things, and I overthink a lot. So instead of me just picking up an acoustic guitar and learning a song, I had to be crazy about it. So I'd have to track every instrument and all the backup vocals.
A lot of preparation.
A lot of preparation. And I ended up spending maybe sometimes 16 to 17 hours straight locked in my little room, tracking every single, it's one thing learning the song and learning the lyrics,
Sure.
but then also learning every single instrument and playing that and harmonizing all the backup vocals and spending a lot of time on it, to where it was like, man, I was in that room 15, 16 hours a day sometimes, and not even socializing with my family. I was like the boy in the bubble or whatever, you know, like that was it. And it was really cool. I was expecting only like $5-10 donations, but some people were very, very generous. And it helped me pay my bills for a few months there.
That's great. I loved. I watched a number of them, and they were entertaining. And to hear you put your stamp and your spin on some of those tunes was super.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a great experience learning how to work the program Logic, and that you know. But it was so much fun. I'm thankful to anybody listening out there. There was actually a lot of people that had requested stuff, and I would have to send money back because I just couldn't. I couldn't find. I ended up getting tinnitus real bad in my ears,
Oh, wow.
where I just had a constant ringing because I was always with headphones, which I'm sure a lot of sound engineers probably. That's why you shouldn't be. I'm wearing headphones right now. I'm freaking being stupid, but I'm really thankful for all the people that have supported that, and the people that did give me money and I didn't get to their song and didn't ask for it back. That was very. I can't respect the fans enough out there for helping, supporting me. You know what I mean? Because the musicians, we really didn't have any enough outlet or way of making money, man. It was it was like time to hustle and start thinking about what are you going to do to make a living, you know?
No, really tough times. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The other question, you and the Aggrolites being on the road so much over the years, and you even touched on your anxiety, but how do you personally try to stay emotionally and mentally secure and healthy when you're on the road, being in such tight quarters with bandmates?
I'm probably the worst person to ask that because I'm still trying to figure out how to stay emotionally and mentally healthy with everything I do, man. Even in school, there's people that are like, man, you worry too much. You don't get, come on. I'm going, I haven't been in school since, 1998. I don't know what the hell. It's like, Jesse, take it easy, man. Like, I guess just being around the right people in the right times,
Yeah.
And luckily I've been in a band with a lot of good guys, all around good guys that haven't, there's never been any like fights or, fist fights or blow ups. Everybody that I've been fortunate enough to be with a lot of people that we've all gotten along for the most part. There's been ups and downs, but in the long run, in the most part, we've all respected each other like brothers. And those guys have always been there,
Yeah. Ups and downs like any relationship.
Oh yeah.
The last question here, which again, full transparency, is from me. In December 2016, you married the wonderful Haley.
Yes.
Correct. Your wedding from start to finish, the ceremony was beautiful. The reception was on another planet. Was a night to remember. Talk about what that meant to you, having Linville, who we talked about earlier, make an appearance on stage, but to have the Hepcat, the Slackers, your brothers and the Aggrolites all perform, because it was magical for me. I can only imagine what it was like for you and Haley.
It was, I mean, it all started. Hey, she's walking down right now. We're talking about you.
In a good way.
On the interview, they're talking about our wedding. She's like, okay, I'm gonna go back upstairs. But man, it all started just as a thought. Like, what are we gonna do? I'm gonna give my wife all the credit. Honestly, I have to, or else I'm sleeping on the couch tonight if I don't do that. But yeah, what a wonderful job my wife did for that wedding. It's true. It looked like $1 million wedding. And it was an extreme budget. I don't know if I should talk about this, but I will. It was a budget wedding, man. It was like, we're gonna find a place, a venue, the El Theater.
Yeah.
And it was a great price. And we're gonna make it look cool. Like the table decorations. My wife went far and beyond. She went to every TJ Maxx and Ross or whatever, I don't remember, but TJ Maxx's or something, and would find, you know, the things, the candle things, and the candelabra, I don't know what he calls, and all the plates, or not plates, but the mats that you put the plates on. And she would just go to every single one and buy all of them. And instead of going on a honeymoon the next day, we drove to every TJ Maxx and returned everything. You know, so yeah, and then like, fortunately, being around for so many years with the musicians, and I got to sit in and play guitar for Hepcat many times. I sat in with the Slackers. I've done a few tours playing guitar for the Slackers a few times. DJ Boss Harms, you know, Dub Club, great friend. So it was like, let's see if these bands will all, you know, all come together and make this night happen. And it ended up, it was amazing to, at first it was going to be just Hepcat. And then Dave Hilliard is like, hey, why didn't you ask us? It's like, you're New York, I would. We'll book something around it. We'll do it. So it's like, okay, now we got Slackers and Hepcat. Why not call up Boss Harms? Okay, you know, and then before you knew it, it ended up becoming like this, like, ultimate freaking, because nobody, Slackers and Hepcat together, I mean, that hasn't happened in, I don't know, since the 90s. But she's those, and Lynn Linville came on stage. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, getting Linville, because we didn't want to impose on Linville and be like, can you come out to our wedding and get on stage? And we didn't want to do that. We invited, and even Phil Chen was there, man. Like, Phil Chen, dude, like
ultimate guitarist.
Yeah, that guy is like legendary from everything from all the, you name the Jamaican, like, old school album, from Simmer to all kinds of other things, he played on that. And not only that, this guy was Rod Stewart's bass player for years.
He doesn't get any higher, right?
Bass player of the Doors, you know, and it's like, this guy's at our wedding, you know. But like Linville, I mean, we wanted to make them feel like a guest, not like we invited them to. We're all like, man, God, I hope they will go on stage. And sure enough, Linville, he couldn't get enough of it. He just ran up there and grabbed a mic, dude, and he started going for it. So I wish, the one thing I wish we had I wish I wasn't so cheap about everything, and we would have hired somebody to film the night. Yeah. Because we have the only videos we got are luckily there's Instagram, so a bunch of people were taking Instagram videos and stuff like that. But
well, I have a few that I think you've seen, but yeah, those are. It was an amazing wedding, man. And
to this day, you know, you still hear stories about it. I feel bad we couldn't afford to like invite so many, you know, because word started getting around to where it was like, well, that's a lot of people, but I mean, this was like, not only was it the Wagner wedding, this was like the ultimate ska show. It really was. in years, you know what I mean? Like, there was a lot of people that were like, man, I wish I could have went to that thing, because it was it was intimate, it was a good show, it was at a good venue, it was amazing, man. So it really was.
So Jesse, I know that you and Junior talked about a bunch of different things, but is there anything that as we're coming to an end here, is there anything that we've not talked about that you'd like to share?
Yeah, actually, there's one thing I'd like to bring up is
just one.
Well, I think I talked the ear off enough about me. It's like, all right, enough stories. Recently, during the whole COVID thing, like I was saying, recording and doing all that in the bedroom for the donations, dedications. The last big tour we went on was with the Long Beach Dub All Stars, and I've known Opie, the lead singer, for I don't know, since over 20 years easily. But me and him became really good friends during that tour, and continue to remain friends during the pandemic and all. So he started sending me rhythms of him singing over like old Studio One songs or Treasure Isle songs or whatever, like dub tracks, like ideas. And he's like, do something with it. And I was like, okay, let's collaborate. You know, like I was saying before, with bands you tour with, you want to keep it going. So we started working together. I was learning that Logic program, so it was a fun experience for me to learn how to use the program. And I'd start making up rhythms and sending them back to him. And then before you know it, he'd come over the house and start singing. So this little thing of ideas and songs, you know, writing together, ended up becoming what's going to be an album. So it got signed. It's going to be released. I don't know the exact date, but stay tuned for that. It's going to be called Opie and Family. He's got his children featured on it. He's got Gil Sharon is featured on it. He's got Jason Beltran. We got a lot of great friends on it. Pretty much, you know, what Opie would consider like musician family, and also his own. It's cool. We got his 10-year-old boy on it, like DJing, you know, like boy style and stuff. So it's going to be really cool. It's going to be 10 to 11 tracks, Opie and Family. The title of the album is going to be called Sound Sensation Volume 1. And yeah, just keep an eye out for that. You could see it on my Instagram or Opie's Instagram.
Yeah, I've seen some of the posts. That's great. That's exciting.
Yeah. So that's about it. That's what I got going on right now. We're wrapping it up, mixing, and getting that finalized to where we could send it off to the label and have it out.
You guys have a label?
Yeah, it's the same.
Okay,
it's this. I don't know if I should talk about that just yet because I don't know exactly what.
It's entirely up to you.
I'll wait on all the details, but just keep it Opie and Family Sound Sensation Volume 1. And
cool. That's great. Okay.
Yeah, you mentioned those vintage rhythms, so I need not ask for it.
Yeah, I mean, it was the coolest thing. That everybody,
my soundtrack. I am not gonna ask for it, man.
Everybody writes songs, you know, different way, you know, and this was a really cool pandemic experience of songwriting because you know him just singing into his cell phone to an old rhythm, and then me trying to write a different rhythm that's in the vein of that rhythm, and then it was just a really cool way of recording, man. It was awesome.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yes.
Well,
I think we almost reached our destination.
Yes. We want to encourage everyone out there to please tell a friend or family member to follow History of L.A. Ska on Instagram, subscribe to our brand new YouTube channel, and join our Facebook group. This is our first episode, although it's number 16 in the series, but the first one in this new platform. Junior, thank you for everything that you do.
And this series is produced by my good friend here, Eric Kohler, for Rockery Radio. And once again, please follow us at Rockery Radio, Rockery_radio on Instagram, and for fresh playlists that's posted regularly, weekly, right?
Daily, different
daily. Wow, man, you guys are working like a firefly.
And a quick shout out to Sean Heidkemper on that.
Yes, all right. Yes. So that's Rockery_radio on Instagram.
Correct.
Daily playlist. Wow.
Multiple genres in the rock, rhythm, and soul.
Yes, indeed. So. And again, you, Jesse, want to thank you abundantly. Thank you for everything, man. Thanks for preserving the integrity of this great music. You know.
Thank you very much, man. I love you guys. It's been
and the availability of your songs. Where are they available? There's 7 albums.
Yeah, where's the best place that people can?
The Aggrolites records are all it's really cool. We're on Pirates Press Records. So what they did, it's cool, man, because there was a few albums that never got released on vinyl. And they have the whole catalog, so you could find everything, merchandise, t-shirts, hats, pins, you name it, and vinyl, CDs, all of the albums, all on Pirates Press Records. So check out Pirates Press. That's a great record label, and I'm honored to be a part of that family.
And what's the spelling?
I'm sorry, what?
The spelling for Pirates Press.
Pirates and PRESS, Pirates Press Records.
Behind that is to give people a chance to write.
Yeah, I don't know that. Yeah. And hey, I'm cutting hair in Upland. You want a haircut?
Where about?
I might come to you sometime.
Yeah, say exactly where. Why don't you use the opportunity to say exactly where?
You could just, you go on my Instagram. I'm called Wags the Barber, WAGS, like Wagner. Wags the Barber. Send me a DM. The address is all there. The school is there. It's based out of Upland, California. If you're anywhere in that regional area, I need to cut hair. So I'm open 5 days a week, and the more heads I get to cut, the better I'm going to get. So hit me up for a haircut.
Yes. Proud of you, Jesse.
Thank you.
All right, Jesse, thank you. I'm Junor Francis. Your parting words, Eric?
I'm Eric, and I want to thank you all. Jesse, thank you. Junior, as always. Have a wonderful night, Jesse.
You too. Now to figure out how to
handle it for us. All right.
All right. Take care, guys. Thank you.
We'll see you.
Bye-bye.